Hello, I'm Rosie Douglas, and until recently I was the e-learning manager here at Mid Kent College. That role is now embedded into my new position as teaching, learning and assessment manager. We moved into this college 2 years ago, just gone into our third year here, and when we moved in we took the decision to make every classroom the same, and in doing so, because of the limitations of funding, that means that we didn't go for interactive whiteboards everywhere, but we've kitted out all the rooms in multimedia. So we have the screens, we have the projectors, and we have speakers, and it's all touch panel stuff so that it's easy for staff to use. The other thing that we do is that we give our staff a laptop as well. We have a great infrastructure here. One of the things that we've introduced this year is Xerte, because we now have this equipment. I went on a training session with RSC on Xerte and I was really impressed with it. And coupled with a link that Alistair McNaught sent out from TechDis about the use of Xerte in an ESOL class and the use of it with an interactive whiteboard set me thinking. We had a whole college focus day, staff development day, coming up, and we wanted to deliver a session on the use of motivational dialogue with our personal learning plan that we introduced last year. So what I did, one of the ways that we show staff how to use technology, encourage them to use it, is to let them experience it as a student. So created a whole session on motivational dialogue using Xerte within Moodle. 30 teachers were then trained to use this object, and they delivered that to all our teaching staff with a strong wireless network, and so we really have a good foundation for our staff to explore and use technology in teaching. It was quite interesting when we first came here, because a lot of the things that I had been training staff with and showing staff and encouraging them to use with little success in lots of ways, people started to pick up when they came here, and we've seen a great increase of use in video and audio and a great deal of exploration in technology now. And this has really come about because staff know that when they walk into a classroom here that they've got the same kit, they know it's going to work, and they have confidence in it. So some of the things that we've introduced as part of that is, well, obviously a much wider use of Moodle, a much wider use of videoing and use of video and audio in class. Because of that, we've introduced VShare, which is our own internal YouTube, and we've also bought our own TV streaming software as well. So we're seeing increased use of TV video in that capacity as well. One of the other things that we've introduced last year is Mahara. We've had slight concerns with social networking. It's quite difficult for staff to know where to draw the boundaries. You know, some staff are wary of, well, where do I stand with social networking if there's bullying going on, and other staff don't seem to understand at all what the limitation should be. So we've introduced Mahara. We're very interested in the portfolio side of it, but particularly interested in the social networking side. One of our members of staff, who is Carol Rycraft, and she's one of our teacher coaches for e-learning, has been experimenting with students this year who came for interviews. And on an interview for a course, she enrolled them onto the Mahara social group pages, and she's been trialling that to see, has that helped with friendship groups. She's been using it to set work, and so we'll be able to report back on that a little more and in more detail in the future. And some of the other things that we've done in addition here, when we moved in, we didn't have all the kitchens and all the workshops kitted out with a lot of technology. We wanted staff to be able to come into the new facilities, use them, and then work with them to decide what's the best technology, rather than put it in for them and find out it wasn't quite what they wanted. And so with working with staff, we've found now that we have visualisers in the carpentry workshop. We did have them in the hair and beauty salons to start with, because they had piloted them the year before we came in, and what they do with those is they're able to demonstrate some of the techniques that they're using for hair cutting and drawing, and students can see them and they can work at their own stations. Instead of crowding round like they had to before and not being able to see, they're able to stay at their own workstations and follow step-by-step instruction. We've also found that this has been really successful using desktop visualisers in things like sciences when they're doing heart dissection, for example. One of our newer things that we're moving into is in our kitchens. Having screens and video cameras installed in there so that when the chefs are at the front of the class, again, so that students aren't crowding around, that they can be at their own stations and they can watch the demonstrations and then they'll be able to follow them. But we're also moving a step further forward with that and having this wireless operated so that if we're sitting in our reception or in the restaurant, we're going to be able to see those demos taking place live. This will be particularly useful. We run things like Battle of the Chefs, great evenings like that, and the audience outside waiting for their food will actually be able to be in part of the excitement of that taking place.